Hey, I thought I'd do the long-awaited overview for Part Warriors 4. Now, I have not finished the game yet. Honestly, when you're a content creator, sometimes it takes longer to finish games than when you're playing casually. I've been trying to learn everything as I go. So, I thought I'd just explain the mechanics pretty quickly first. So let's go into the treasure log and just have some fun here. So first off is the characters are divided into types now. So they are in some ways more unique than they were before, even if they have a lot of repurposed animations. There are definitely some characters that have more repurposed animations than new animations. For instance, a lot of the characters that had like aerial strings in the last game, some of those are used as their aerial strings here. Some animations are put in different places. Sometimes the most ideal situation is actually when they get put on R1 so that you can use them without the restrictions of the charge attack system. Overall, pretty much all the characters that I've played so far, obviously I don't have everybody unlocked yet, and I haven't played as everybody, the game's only been out a few days, but everybody I've played so far, most of them actually feel significantly different, even if they didn't get a whole plethora of new moves. Tashigi is the outlier here. A lot of people say she plays like a generic Muso officer now. Unfortunately, but everybody else, they definitely feel like they're their own thing now, instead of just being recycled. So power type isn't terribly interesting. I think you just get like more damage when you smash into things. Technique type, they have follow-ups on their charge attacks. I haven't actually played as any of them yet. Sky types have really long aerial strings and also their full force burst, which I'll get into later. Actually makes you stay in the air permanently, which I kind of consider to be a downside because sometimes some of the Sky type characters actually have good ground charge attacks and you can't really use them that much. And then there's Speed type. Speed types basically just can dash cancel with the power dash for a really long time because the stamina consumption is reduced. But I think the most interesting type for me is probably Sky type, but you know, I'm a sucker for air combos, so that's just me. But pretty much all of them are fun to play in their own right. So let's see who I want to do this with. I would pick Sanji, but he's like barely playable with all that gimmick stuff he has. Let's go ahead and use this Red Ranger guy. So the major progression mechanic change in this would be the growth map. You have three maps. The first map is like a persistent element, meaning that all the characters get these buffs and all of them can use the passive skills. If you've ever played something like a roguelike, you know, like a roguelite with persistent elements, you know, where you unlock like permanent stat boosts and items and things like that, it's very similar to how it works in that style of game, where pretty much any character will get the benefits from this, meaning that you can go in with a basic character and still have a pretty significant amount of stat boost, which I think is pretty nice. Generally in these games, you have to do a lot of grinding to make a character even playable, especially if you're in the end game or the final part of the game. It can be a real pain to kind of get them to the point where you can actually play them on higher leveled content, but here, once you get all these boosts, the characters are actually pretty much good to go. Now, the second map has unique things. These are exclusive character boosts, and there's more R1 moves in here. Sometimes there'll be exclusive skills as well, so that's one of the things that encourages you to explore the majority of the roster, is actually having skills in here that you can only get with respective characters. And then once you get a certain amount of crew points, what you'll get in here is this is the equivalent of the level break tree. Unfortunately, you don't unlock any new moves by doing this, which I consider to be kind of a bummer. But the good thing is that you get a bunch of stat boosts in here. So if you want to max out your character, you want to max out this tree first. At the very least, get all the stat boosts. Some of the skills aren't too great. Some of them seem kind of situational, like this one here, which just makes the territories easier to capture. That can take up valuable skill point space. But once you max out all the permanent stat boosts, you definitely want to go in here and get all your moves, and then from there, once you start getting the third map and you have the extra resources, you want to go in here and get your stats. But all the coins are shared, so you may only want to focus on a particular character from time to time, depending on how you decide to play the game. So let's try to get him some boosts right now, actually. So the lines tell you what the prereqs are, and then at the bottom right-hand corner it shows you what coins you need. There is no RNG with the coins from what I've seen. I think there is towards the end of the end game, but I haven't gotten there yet. So I like this end game considerably more than Pirate Warriors 3, which just had too much RNG for my tastes. Here it's much more controlled. Basically just play the game, make sure you're rotating out characters and getting crew points and things like that, and you'll progress at a pretty natural rate. So I just got him some stamina and some health. And one of the other new mechanics in this game is the R1 system. This basically gives you actives, kind of similar to how it works in Dynasty Warriors 9, however you don't get like state combo systems or anything like this. It's pretty much like any game where you have shortcuts on an attack modifier. There's a number of things you can have here, like this powers him up and puts him in the skywalk mode. This is like this big like laser burst thing he does from his body that pretty much breaks guards instantly. It's kind of like a shotgun. This one, his brother comes out and does a bunch of punches, and then this one is his Muso attack. So you actually want to pay attention to the icons here. So this basically means that it's a Muso attack. And if it has a feather, then it means that it's an aerial-enabled attack. So you actually want to pay attention to these and make sure that you're using what you should be. Skill point system is pretty much exactly the same as it was before, meaning that you have a bunch of passives here, and you have a limit of 6 points. I was kind of a little bit disappointed they didn't expand this more. Maybe one way they could make the second passive tree more interesting is if it gave you more skill points or something. You are going to be pretty strapped for points, unfortunately, just like it was in the last game. So for him, I have this increases his ability to break guards. This decreases stamina consumption while airborne, which is good for any sky-type character, even speed types. This increases attack against unconscious enemies, and this gradually restores the special meter. So there's some other interesting ones. There's a couple new ones in here too, like this one restores life when you use a special move. This one makes you invincible when using Power Dash, or Sky Dash. But apparently some of the translations are kind of vague, so some people are actually determining what some of these skills actually do. They don't actually do what they say, apparently. So I won't go into that too much. Let's just get straight to the game. Gotta fight right off the start, so I can't really explain things. Okay, so standard controls. You have a jump now. The terrain is actually kind of cool. You can actually destroy buildings. You can actually jump. There's significantly less invisible walls than most Muso games, so sometimes you can actually take a shortcut by jumping up, but it's kind of random. Sometimes there'll be like invisible walls in places where you don't think there would be. The normal charge attack system, but the amount of charge attacks actually varies depending on the type. Like he is a sky type, so he has kind of Samurai Warrior style charge extensions when he's airborne, but when he's on the ground he only has singular charge attacks. So the way that you use the air combo system is during any charge attack, you push the jump button, which is kind of like a jump cancel and a launcher at the same time. So I can do like C5, puts the fire out, and jump, things like this. As long as you have stamina, you can always cancel. Stamina only comes back when you're not attacking. Like if I clean a bunch of stamina here and then I start doing some combos, stamina won't come back. However, if you use full force burst, you will get your full stamina back. So generally you want to do things like what I'm going to do to this guy here. Do a bunch of combos. Camera in this game is not the best sometimes, especially with these aerial-enabled characters. And then you do a full force burst, and that will give you your stamina back. Now what you can do from this point is you can either cancel the burst and just keep your stamina, or you can actually use it as intended. Depending on the situation, you may want to vary between both. As you can see here, with Sky types, they are permanently considered in the air when they use their burst, which, depending on the character, can be a detriment. Overall, the game feels quite responsive, but the stamina system can definitely be an acquired taste. Sometimes you feel like you're a little bit restricted by it, but once you start getting the passives and things like that, it becomes a little less annoying. I'm not a big fan of stamina systems in anything, but you had the foresight to make them come back pretty quickly. Generally, you can clear out a room pretty quickly, or end the fight, and by the time you get to the next fight, you'll be back. You'll have your full bar. Like pretty much by the time he recovered and he was able to perform an action, I already had everything back. If you use your moves properly, you can pretty much combo enemies forever. But you have to be kind of smart about it. If you just burn through your stamina, then you'll definitely have a lot of downtime. But if you use things like your specials and your full force burst cancels, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And the stamina system won't feel as restrictive as it does at the beginning of the game. One nice thing about a majority of the, I think it's called the treasure log in this game, or dream log in the first game, is that a lot of the maps that you get, they only take place in a certain small section of the level, which reduces a lot of the backtracking. The maps in this game are still quite big, so sometimes you'll get into situations, mostly in the main campaign, where you'll just be walking a lot. You feel like you're playing a walking sim. But in the Dreamlog, for the most part, things are pretty fast-paced. Some of the larger maps, like the actual fight, will only take place on like maybe 25 to 50% of the map, which really helps with the pacing. Alright, so there's a basic level for you. Go ahead and explain the rest of the mechanics now. The crew system is pretty much similar to the last game. However, when you get certain bonuses or when you get certain levels, you'll actually unlock your third map, or the second map for your character. So you generally want to, you know, rotate through the characters and get the crew points with whoever's on the map. That way you can get their second map and work towards maximizing them. Like with him, I just reached level 5, so I got his coin. And then if I reach one more level with her, then I'll get her second progression map. Like I said, no RNG with the coins. I think there is towards the end of the game, but I can't comment on that yet. I decided to just explain the majority of the mechanics in a timely manner. The game's going to be close to a week old soon. I know people have been waiting for this. So there's no more islands in the treasure log at all. It's basically just to select them, which I think is nice. The whole little Super Mario Brothers map was nice, but it took a long time to get to where you wanted to go. This is far less confusing. There are actually more maps than it seems. There are certain maps with a key on them. When you complete the one with the key, it will actually unlock more maps. And then there's one, I guess, somewhere in here. I think this is the one you need to do to progress through the next category. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm kind of waiting until I finish the game. But yeah, that's basically the majority of the mechanics. It's a pretty simple game to understand. If you played the last 3 games, it will definitely have an adjustment period. You have to get used to the new mechanics. Some of your favorite moves may be in different places. They may be only in the air. They may be at the end of a charge string. You may be on R1. So just because you know an old character in the old game doesn't really mean that you'll be able to learn them quickly here, which I think is nice. The One Piece series has never really had any clones. The Power Ranger people, the red, green, and blue guy, they do have some moves that they share, but for the most part, they're completely unique. I feel like almost everybody feels a lot better to play than they did before. My main complaint with the game is that there is no dodge offset, so the characters that focus on having really long ground triangle strings, it definitely feels kind of awkward to play them because you can't just get to that move right away. You have to go through the whole thing. I guess that was done because they made the dash is not just a dodge anymore, it's actually like an offensive tool, and it's a tool for traversal, so I guess they wanted to balance it that way. It would be nice if they added some kind of like skill system or like passive where you could put that back on. I think a lot of the old players would really like that, but at the same time, the attack speed is actually quite nice. Everybody gets an attack speed boost in full force burst, so that kind of solves the problem. Some of the characters had really slow attack speed and things like that, and that's not even an issue anymore. Overall, the game is quite fun to play. I like the progression much more. I definitely played my fair share of Pirate Warriors 3, however, I didn't really care for the end game because of all the RNG and stuff, and here that's not a problem. You pretty much just play the game and you get a significant amount of progress. The PC port, like I said, is quite good. It's definitely better than the console version, so if you have a decent enough PC, you can probably run it just fine, but like I said, there's no interesting mods yet, and the game is pretty CPU heavy, so if you're watching this and you're wondering if you can run it, you may want to, I don't know, try to play it on a friend's account, game share it or something, or anything like that. Once I get a little farther into the game, maybe I'll explain some of the mechanics more, but that's basically the gist of it. Once I start getting farther into the end game, which will probably take a considerable amount of time, then I will probably elaborate on those things further. Anyway, hope this helps you guys make can't talk right now, an educated purchasing decision, and I'll catch you guys later with more Pirate Warriors 4 content. Thanks for watching.